I'll go over a little bit how to deal with nested lists, in other words, chords. So I've turned off my other note sequences here by commenting them out, and I've created this new notes sequence here, or collection of notes. As you can see, it's again nested lists. So we've got one list here, another list here, another list here. Okay, let's talk about using nested lists in notes. And again, this is really for using chords rather than a sequence of notes. And I'll qualify that a little bit more shortly. But generally speaking, that's the idea here. So again, nested notation is brackets, and then, so this is a list, comma, another list, and so forth. Now, as I said previously, this is chords has to be 1 if you're going to be using a nested list up here. I just want to show you what happens when that doesn't happen. If we were to run this program right now, you'll see an error pop up in the post window. As you can see, it spits out all this stuff. And it's basically because something in the program doesn't jive, because it's trying to consider this as a sequence of notes when it's really a bunch of different lists. So if that happens when you run it, this is a good thing to be aware of and check, is being like, okay, do I have nested lists in my notes? And if so, I really need to make this a 1. So you could think of this as saying, like, you know, is this a nested list? And if notes is a nested list, this needs to be 1. So that's probably one of the most common errors you'll encounter when running this program. It is, as I've said before, not that user-friendly because there's just so many different variables, and sometimes just defining one the wrong way can cause things to behave not as you expect it to. So that's the first thing I'll mention. I also want to go over one other thing I should have mentioned before. Right now I'm running this all through Ableton Live, and I've got different things set up for my different instruments. So far you've just heard one instrument with the melody, and it was playing out on, as far as SuperCollider is concerned, MIDI channel 0, which is really MIDI channel 1. So I have that receiving here in Ableton Live on channel 1, and that was playing out an instance of CZV. I'm going to change that up a little bit here. I just want to show you where you actually set that. So the basic ARP function, again, as I'm defining it on my own terms here, is playing out down here on this variable instrument. And again, this is one of those cases where this is a MIDI channel. So up until now, we've been using MIDI channel 1, which is really 0. I'm going to change that to 1 here. Now you might wonder why I bury it down here. I'll go over that in the future, but basically one reason for that is because this is kind of its own function in itself. You can actually have a sequence of MIDI channels, meaning you can have, you don't have to confine a part to playing out on one particular channel in order. But I don't want to get ahead of myself there. So just note that I'm going to change this to a 1, so we're actually playing out on MIDI channel 2 now. So it's going to be, in my live setup, it's going to be receiving over here on this channel, as you can see. So another instance of CZV, but slightly different instrument. So we've got a nested list playing out. It's basically just 3 different triads. And again, the rhythm that it's going to use for that is dictated by our ARP rhythm. So we've got here 3 quarter notes and a quarter note. And yeah, so let's hear what that sounds like. Now, note that was also being dictated by ARP order. So ARP order, this would be, since it's wrapping, since there's only 3 essentially elements in this list, this is, in terms of the ARP order, this is index 0, this is all index 1, this is all index 2. If we actually just wanted to play those chords in order, we would we'd turn ARP order, auto-generate ARP order, so now it's going to just playing through. So now it's just playing those chords in the order that I wrote them. Again, with the interference of the ARP rhythm. So we've got a 3-chord sequence interfering with 2 unit rhythmic figure. So not very interesting interference. It takes 6 chords for the pattern to repeat. But again, we can change the order that the chords play using this function here, or this variable here. And again, I can use my rests here to make this more interesting if I want. Now that didn't make it so interesting because, as you can see, there's 3 chords and there's 3 non-rests in a row. Essentially, I start out with 2 in a row, but because it loops it, so if I wanted to make this a little bit more interesting, I could do that. Anyway, as you can see, that's still something that's in effect, even if you're using chords.